Oh my God.
Unless there's
Mike?
another Dan that
I've
I'm
lost
not
so
aware
much
of.
weight.
Well, that or you line up just right with Mike.
Well, okay,
Just right.
Thank God.
Call this meeting to order. Do we have any citizen or public comments tonight? Seeing none, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. We'll continue on with the approval of the agenda.
Some of.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the minutes of the August 27th and September 4th meetings. Any questions on the minutes?
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeager.
Oh, I got a little early, didn't you?
Okay.
Next is approval of the consent calendar. Does anybody have any questions on the consent calendar?
I might make a comment on the item A there on the health plan. If you've been noticing in the last 6, 8, 9 months, we've been running pretty tight on our balance, but in the last 3 months, we brought that up from June, it was 19,000, July 73,000, in August we're back at 2,000, so it had a drop. We had some big claims in the last 6 months, but this is now coming back to where it should be.
Okay. Any other comments on the consent calendar?
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved. Business of the mayor, the only thing I would comment is City Administrator Steve and City Clerk Trudy and Councilman Michael and Mayor Dean all went to the League of Cities meeting last Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in Council Bluffs, and I think we all thought it was pretty worth our time, and so hopefully we can implement some of the things we heard there, or at least take some considerations. But I think they're pretty good sessions, as far as, at least the ones I attended. So
Yeah, absolutely.
next is request for parade, for homecoming parade, September 28th for the Charles City homecoming. Discussion. Anybody have any comments on this one?
It's the same as it's always been, so I think I told him that maybe he didn't need to be here because they haven't changed it from anything. So it's going to be the 28th. I believe it starts at 3:30. Does that sound right, Hugh? I believe it starts at 3:30. They're lining up, I think, at 3 or 3:15.
There's Justin.
Oh, there's just 4:15. Thank you.
So they run it by you, Chief?
I've just seen paperwork on it, I haven't spoken with anybody.
Okay.
Somebody signed your name to the permit. I so move.
Second.
Any further questions on the homecoming parade? Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
I don't think I ever went to the city council.
So the homecoming parade is on.
Are you going to ride in that, hopefully?
I'm going to be out of town.
Where do we play?
I don't even know.
Next is consideration of Resolution 14818, approving agreement for business plan and engineering for the Fiber to the Home project. Discussion.
Yes, so I see on my AAS sheet there were some formatting issues, but nonetheless, this is the recommendation for the Fiber to the Home project to do the design engineering business plan work. Basically what this is would be our next step towards the Fiber to the Home project that we've been talking about for going on 2-3 years now. This is a Task 2, if you recall, Task 1 was the feasibility study, so now Task 2 is the actual design engineering. The original Task 1, the feasibility study, we went through that, and it shows that this project is feasible. The plan we're looking at that will work, and so based on those parameters and what we're wanting to narrow down and do, we need to now take that step and develop the business plan and actually do the physical engineering layout, where they actually come to town, measure and lay everything out to see how close, we are to, of that project estimate of $11.5 million. So this process here is basically consists of two pieces. One is the design of the network architecture, which is development of the business plan and all that, workings that go with that. That's an amount not to exceed $95,000. It's most likely that it will come in less than that $95,000, just for the discussions we've had talking through this. We're also going to be looking to do some overlap sharing with New Hampton as part of that, so that's where some of that savings will be seen as well. The $286,070 for the outside plant architecture, that is a per foot price based on 332,640 feet. So that number will be that number unless the footages are less or more. But all told, it's going to be right around $380,000 to do this next step, and this gets us that much closer to fruition of a fiber project becoming a reality. Our next step after this will be presumably this spring, after all the work here is done, when we get the final numbers in and determine financing approach and ultimate cost for the project, and if at that point determine if we want to proceed. That's when we'll be making the big step of spending somewhere around $11.5 million to do a fiber to the home project. So Broadband Commission has met several times on this topic. They most recently met this last Tuesday to review the design plan and this task order 2. I think we met for a little over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, with the consultant here and our other consultant that we are working on with the RFI, the request for information. We finalized that. Those pieces will be implemented into this process as we move forward. And very good discussion, and everybody is eager and to keep moving forward. And they made and the Broadband Commission made a recommendation saying that. So with that, I recommend approval of this resolution and ask if there's any questions.
Where would the funding come from at this point, Steve, to cover this?
Up front, we will fund this out of existing city reserves. We might take out a small interim loan to cover it, but ultimately we'll get reimbursed through the ultimate project on this. If we decide not to do the project, then we're out that spending. But if we do the project, then we will be reimbursed from the ultimate long-term financing. And that's something you'll see a resolution here probably at the next council meeting for, which would be a reimbursement resolution, which will say that we will reimburse ourselves with that funding source.
And eventually this would be a revenue bond. Sorry, I'll quit asking questions.
No, that's fine. We are hoping that this will be a 100% revenue bond. We think that there might be the need for some general obligation debt, or at least the ability to take out general obligation debt service. The tricky part with this is, we're looking at creating a utility. We passed the referendum in 2005 that said yes, we have the ability to create a municipal telecom, and so we've just never acted on that. Now that we're actually creating the utility, we're creating that utility and basing that off revenues that we don't have yet. So based on that, perceived risk, the feasibility study says it pays back very quickly. On that perceived risk, it's still a utility that doesn't exist, and so to ease that risk and or concern from potential bond buyers, we may need to pass a bond referendum to say that we would obligate $4 to $5 million in general obligation if we had to, with the intent of we're going to pay this all with revenue bonds anyway. We just pass this to give the buyers a little more, make them a little bit more at ease when it comes to buying our bonds. most recent discussions I've had with Paul Donna from Baird, he's thinking that we might be able to do this completely with revenue bonds. So those are the discussions we're still having, but largely it's going to be a revenue bond with maybe a little general obligation security.
Little skin in the game on our part.
Yeah.
To show that we're serious about this.
Yep, yep. And so depending on how that comes forward, we may have a referendum to pass. So we'll see how that takes us forward. One thing I will mention, I did make a copy of, I received back comments from our bond counsel, from Dorsey and Whitney. I gave everybody a copy of that. He had just a few comments as far as changes to the agreement. Not very, critical or anything, more typos and some other corrections. So we will have them make those changes. Assuming council approves, we would have them make those changes and implement that into the final document.
By approving 148.18, and you say we're going to be committing $380,000, and even if we decide not to go with it, why, we're still going to be out that money. And that's fine. I mean, I don't know the technicalities of this, but I've been following your committee reports, and they all sound real good, and it sounds like a good idea to go ahead. But we're making a commitment of approximately $400,000 before we make the commitment to go ahead finally with the whole works.
That's correct. I mean, even if we decide not to do it,
Right.
we have a laid out plan for how one could be done.
Okay.
So if we don't do it for whatever reason and somebody else would have interest in doing that, we would have that product, that step already completed. So
Right.
there would be that.
Thank you.
One last thing I'll mention that is if you look on 3.1 where it talks about compensation, it talks about subsection I, subsection II. Those are the two we're looking at. Subsection III is construction oversight. That is optional, so that's assuming we go forward with the project and we want to retain their services, we could do so. But I did clarify that with John Danos that we are not obligated to that 216. That's only for their construction oversight if and when the project goes forward and if we want to use their services.
Okay.
Any further questions?
I would move for approval, Your Honor.
Second.
I will say that both at the meeting last week and the previous week when I went to the downtown summit meetings, the discussion of connectivity and broadband capabilities was brought up at several different sessions. So statewide, this is considered a very important thing to have access to. So I think we're headed the right direction if we vote today.
And along with that, this committee, is not only looking at this to provide better service to the individuals and businesses in town, but also as an economic development tool for future development of the business community
Yep.
and the community. So I think they're all,
That was mentioned too, yep,
Yep.
that's right. Because somebody said, well, I can get by with lesser internet, and the guy said, yeah, you can today, but as we move forward, and like Delane said, with economic development, to have that as a tool is pretty important, so.
Yeah. Also, I might add too, this last week when we were in Council Bluffs, it got mentioned a couple times during the conference itself, and any conversations I had with my colleagues, it grabbed their attention when I told them what we were working on. So there's a lot of communities looking to see what we do here, I think, which is a good thing.
Any further comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye. Resolution 148-18 passes, and we'll continue moving forward. Next is consideration of first reading of ordinance 1120, amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Charles City, Iowa to change the classification of a parcel of real estate from M2 General Manufacturing District to B3 Service Business District. Discussion on this one.
Yes, this rezoning request was submitted by the Charles City Railway Company. And if you scroll down past the summary, I've included an aerial photo. And it's a long rectangular parcel highlighted there. And it's immediately south of 11th Avenue and North Grand Avenue is on the west side, and D Street is on the east side. And now this company, they have created a nonprofit group, and they've called it the American Passenger Train History Museum. And this is the parcel that has all the rail cars on it, like the older passenger train cars on it. And what they intend to do, they intend to create a museum that highlights the highlights passenger rail service in the United States. They'll have a building for videos and for admissions, and they will actually have the rail cars out there that people will be able to go through and get a feel for what passenger train service was like. Now, this property is currently zoned M2, but it's not used as M2 right now. And a museum is not, it's not a permitted use nor a special use in M2. So what we've determined that in order to get this built here, that the best zoning for this site would be a B3. There's other B3s. Well, just about, let's see, in 2015. Just south of the site, the Ackerson property, that was rezoned B3, and there's other B3 properties on the other side of North Grand Avenue. So the Planning and Zoning Commission, they met on August 27th. They held a public hearing on the matter, and they are forwarding a recommendation to approve the zoning request. So we would recommend approval of the first reading of Ordinance 1120, rezoning this property from M2 to B3.
Any questions for John?
So move.
Second.
Further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
We'll now have the first reading of Ordinance 1120.
Ordinance number 1120, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Charles City, Iowa to change the classification of a parcel of real property from M-2 General Manufacturing District to B-3 Service Business District.
Thank you. Next is a,
Could I just, John, did we check on that other property up there?
Yeah, that property there just south of there.
Yeah, on the
to
east
the
end.
east of Ackerson property. Yeah, we think that it's still better to leave that as M2 until the use changes.
Okay.
next is Resolution 14918, which is setting a public hearing on Ordinance 1120.
Yes, well, the zoning ordinance does require the city council to hold a public hearing on a rezoning request. So we would recommend resolution number 14918 to be approved, which sets October 1st at 6 p.m. as the date and time for a public hearing.
So we can do the public hearing even though we've had the first reading?
Yes. Because then after that will be the second reading and then third reading at another meeting.
The public hearing just needs to occur before it's adopted and published.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
That public hearing on October 1st. Consider Resolution 150-18 approving a facade funding for 100 North Main Street. Mark, do you have comments on this one?
I did email, one second, Mark, I did email out Mark's email, or forwarded it, that had that breakdown that we had talked about, and then there is also a paper copy in front of you in case you didn't get a chance to catch it on your email today. So,
Thank
there you
you.
go, Mark.
Thank you.
Yep.
And that's what you asked for at the workshop, was a breakdown just of the eligible costs. I did have the contractor do that, and you should have that in front of you. His eligible cost breakdown was $11,801.25, so that would qualify them for the dollar-for-dollar match for the $5,460 request. And again, this is just for the window and door replacement, which has not begun yet. He's already worked on getting the old covering off that outdoor stairwell and redid that. And I have talked to the contractor, and it is their intention to put historically accurate windows in to match what's in the building now.
And that's the balance that's in this fund for this year?
That is the
then?
remainder of the balance for this year.
Any questions for Mark?
As we spoke at the planning session, there's numerous items that are being done on this, but just the qualifying projects, what we're looking for, and yeah, all we need was just that breakdown of the labor to install those items to satisfy that, getting it above that that dollar amount to support the funding of that full, awarding of that full dollar amount, and it's looks perfect. Just with that, I'd so move.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
And that resolution is passed. Next is Resolution 15118, which is approving an engineering agreement with SEH for the Southwest TIF Stormwater Improvement Project. Discussion on this one.
Yeah, as we discussed at the last planning session, the Area Development Corporation, they've been working with SEH engineers to review and study the drainage that's out, the drainage facilities and issues that are out at the Southwest Development Park. SEH has completed their study. They've have recommendations that they've presented in order to take care of some of those drainage issues. Now, in order to implement that study and move ahead with construction, we do need to have construction documents, bidding documents prepared that we can send out to contractors to get bids for the work. SEH, they've prepared an engineering services agreement. It's basically, it's two phases. First phase is design, and the design would include field survey, design and preparation of plans and specifications. And the second phase is the construction administration, and that would take place once the contractor is starting work, that they would be out there making sure that the improvements are getting built in accordance with the plans and specifications. Now, the cost for the engineering services, it's set up on a it's basically an hourly not to exceed fee, so that if during the course of the work, if the engineering firm can make changes that can save time, we'll save money. The design is the cost is not to exceed, so it wouldn't exceed any more than $22,000, and the construction administration is a not to exceed fee of $23,400. So it'd be a total of $45,400. So I would recommend approval of Resolution 151-18, approving the engineering services agreement with SEH.
Have any questions or comments for John?
This 45.4, John, none of that will go towards the $40-some thousand culvert project that the city's already doing out there, right? That project kind of stands on its own. So this would be other work that would be done out there in that area?
No, the culvert work is part of this project. It's all one project. So,
Okay, but has that part all been designed and everything?
No, that has not been designed.
Okay, so I guess I'm just looking at this more from the Southwest TIF board. You know, we agreed to put some money out there, but the city had already committed to do this culvert thing. So I guess I just want to make sure that the Southwest TIF board money is going to go truly to everything else other than what the city had already committed to do for that culvert project.
On that, is that 80,000? Is that for the culvert?
It was 40-some thousand, I thought.
We committed, we budgeted 80,000 out there. And that included the
City.
culvert? Question.
Yeah, we budgeted 80,000.
City
Okay.
did.
the city for the,
Okay.
for the street work and the culvert work under 11.
I might have been, I just was thinking of just the culvert, not the streets part of it, but
But we're still not, beyond that, you've got $400,000. That, we haven't determined how that's going to be funded, the additional amount? We have to determine.
Correct, we
that.
have not,
Yeah, right.
yeah, we don't have a funding solution for that yet.
Tim didn't come in with a bunch of pledges or anything.
No. We've we've sent them out.
I understand.
I think what we'll be able to do, Delaney, is we'll be able to itemize between the two projects as far as how much is towards the non-culvert project portion of this.
okay.
So we can say, you know, how much is TIF eligible and how much is part of the city project. But-
Because I'm looking at this engineer's preliminary opinion of a probable cost, and it lists the precast concrete box culvert for 11th Street at $48,000. So,
Yeah, and the final, like the bid will all be separated too, so that we can, all those items that are associated with the culvert, the street work, that can all be separated, so we know exactly what each part's costing.
okay. I guess I'm just trying to make sure that the Southwest TIF money goes as far as it
Right.
can in this whole project and not kind of taken up for part of the city, part of the whole project.
Sure.
Basically, after you get the culvert out and some of the engineering out, that would fall under the 80,000 you're anticipating. And anything above that would be in the Southwest TIF area. And the TIF has committed 100,000 to that. And we have to do, in the future, the balance.
Yeah.
All right. You got a motion on that?
No.
Also move for resolution 15118.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye. Resolution 15118 is approved. Next is the first reading of ordinance 1121, which is rezoning properties at 600 and 610 Gilbert Street. Discussion on this one.
Yeah, this first came to us from, see, Express Lube. They're on Gilbert Street. They want to expand their business. And they came, and their existing building, as well as the State Bank building immediately to their west, those properties are both, according to the city's zoning map, they are zoned R2, which is a general residence district. And we look at that, and that's obviously a mapping error when the map was created, because those properties have been commercial for quite a long time. And we discussed this at the in August with the council, and the council directed the P&Z to look at this, review this, and make a recommendation on changing this this zoning to make it correct. The planning and zoning, they held a public hearing tonight, and there were no comments against or for this, and they unanimously approved a recommendation for the rezoning to be approved by the city council. So we'd recommend approval of the first reading of ordinance 1121 for this rezoning request.
Any questions?
I know at the workshop there was a question regarding the property just south of that, of the Express Lube.
Yes, if you scroll down past the summary, there's an aerial photo. And the properties that we're discussing right now, those are the properties that are outlined in blue, which are 600 600 Gilbert Street, which is Express Lube, and 610 Gilbert Street, which is the bank. Now, the property immediately to the south of Express Lube, that's outlined in red, that's 403 Cedar. And that's going to be rezoned too, and that's will be just in the next item. But that's a separate rezoning request because that's actually by petition.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's so move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
We'll have the first reading of ordinance 1121.
Ordinance number 1121, an ordinance amending the zoning classification of 2 parcels located in Block A, plat of Freeman, now incorporated as Charles City, Iowa, and the fractional Block 89 in Kelly and Company's addition to St. Charles, now incorporated in and as a part of Charles City, Iowa, from R-2 General Residence District to B-3 Service Business District.
Thank you. And then we will have a consideration of Resolution 15218, which is setting the date for the public hearing on said ordinance 1121.
So move.
Second.
I'm assuming that date will be October 1st also.
Yes.
Second.
Any other questions on that one? Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
So that public hearing is set. Next is the first reading of ordinance 1122, which is the rezoning of the property we just discussed at 403 Cedar Street. Any further clarification on that, John?
Yeah, that's this property that that we were just talking about. Is outlined in red on that aerial photo. And it's owned by Basel Law, but Express Lube, they've entered into an agreement to buy this property so that they can expand their current business from 600 Gilbert. It's currently zoned R2, and it's used as R2, and that's why it's by petition. And it'll be rezoned to B3 to match the rest of the area. So I'd recommend that the council approve the first reading of ordinance 1122. And that the Planning and Zoning Commission did unanimously recommend this rezoning request.
So I guess I'll go back to my original question. I know there was a question about this property being rezoned from residential to commercial. And were the neighbors in that area kind of polled or
They were all
checked with?
contacted, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there weren't any
And
issues that came up there?
there were no written comments, and there were no nobody at the
Okay.
hearing.
I think that's the concern that was brought up at the workshop was, you know, the neighbors there, how they might react to that becoming a commercial property, so.
And that's generally 200 feet of the proposed location, so quite a range of property owners were to...
Yeah,
were
everybody
notified.
within 200 feet.
Okay.
And they receive a letter
Yes.
telling them about the public hearing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and what the rezoning is about.
The property has not yet been purchased by Express Loop, right?
As I understand, no, they have a signed purchase agreement.
Is there a problem if it doesn't go, if it doesn't happen, and then it's zoned and,
I don't know. I suppose they probably have it written subject to.
okay, we can deal with that later.
Are you saying that's the way it should be now?
What's that?
Are you saying that's the way it should be approved now, is subject to the?
No, I mean probably the purchase agreement
Sale.
was subject to
Being rezoned.
Being rezoned.
being rezoned.
Yeah, I think if for whatever reason that fell through, we'd probably have to do another petition to,
Bring
if it
back.
fell through after the third reading, we'd have to get another petition to rezone it back to R2 at that point.
Okay.
But,
Oh, yes.
If it,
See what
if
you
it
mean, yeah.
fell through before the third reading, obviously. in the
Kind of a
past.
chicken and the egg thing. Okay.
You might have a non-conforming structure there, I guess, but.
You got a motion on it?
No.
I so move.
Second.
Any further comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
So we'll have the first reading of ordinance 1122.
Ordinance 1122, an ordinance amending the zoning classification of a parcel located in Block A, plat of Freeman, now incorporated as Charles City, Iowa, from R2 General Residence District to B3 Service Business District.
Thank you. Then we'll have Resolution 15318, which is setting the date for the public hearing on this ordinance, 1122. That would be from October 1st also.
Correct, yes.
I so move.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
All right, moving on to Resolution 15418, which is approving a temporary construction easement at 800 First Avenue. Discussion on this one.
Yes, if you remember back during the open forum that was held for the drainage issues, Rachel Adam at 1801 Roffing Street, she came to the council and asked for some assistance. They were getting a lot of water off First Avenue from the driveway at 800 First Avenue down. The driveway slopes away from the street and slopes into the Roffing Street's property's backyard. And First Avenue was overlaid with asphalt previously and filled in the gutter, and the driveway there at 800 is very flat, and it allows water to spill out of the gutter and then down the driveway. And what we looked at, what we could do is take care of this situation by reconstructing the driveway, raising it up, and keeping that gutter drainage in the gutter so it continued down the street rather than pouring out into the private properties. And if you scroll down, you'll see an aerial photo. And the 1801 Roffing Street property is outlined in red. The 800 First Avenue property is outlined in green. And Resolution 154-18 is for the temporary construction easement for 800 First Avenue. See, that driveway is right on the edge of the property, so that's why we need two easements. But the first resolution is for the temporary easement at 800 First Avenue, and it is a temporary easement, and it will terminate once the construction work is completed. So I'd recommend Resolution 154-18 approving the temporary construction easement agreement.
And our elevating that driveway, that's going to be our cost to do that because we filled the street in.
That would be, yeah, our cost.
Is it the whole driveway, or is it just the approach to the driveway?
Well, the approach and about, it's going to be about 20 feet of the driveway because the approach will have to come up, and then in order to meet that, we'll have to reconstruct some of their driveway to make the connection.
Because their actual driveway is below the elevation of the street, but you're just going to make a lip there, so water gets on down First Avenue.
Yeah, and we'll reconstruct some of the curb and gutter and get a lip in there.
Well, don't run it too far down First Avenue.
But it's going to be the city cost for the entire driveway, the whole 20 feet that's
Yes,
getting redone?
yeah.
Do we have anything in our, at least policies as far as, it seems like a number of these current water issues and past have been dealing with the overlay or multiple overlays to where either the curbs are gone or there's no drainage whatsoever, that we can be proactive in this if we're going to have some overlays, that we can be mindful of a future runoff that, you know, for example, you know, Combo was one, but there's several that it seems like that over the years, the asphalt kind of adds up and to where there's nowhere for the water to go but into these people's yards.
Well, yes, I think it was 2 years ago, we overlaid Yorkshire area.
Yes.
And what we did there, we overlaid like the driving lanes, and then we tapered it down into the gutter to keep the gutter more of a
Okay.
capacity, you know, more, so we had more capacity for stormwater flow.
Okay.
And that's what we just have to do, is instead of just like a flat mat, we taper the gutter sections.
Okay, so the main thing is be mindful of it so that we can hopefully eliminate the
Yeah.
property owner's hassle and then our having to remedy that and kind of prevent the problems from happening in the first place. So,
Are there going to be any other properties along that area there that are going to be affected by more water coming down the street now? Are we going to have another issue at the next house down the line or anything like that? Has anybody looked at that or thought about it?
Well, it will continue down and then to the next set of intakes.
I'm talking more about driveways and things like that.
Oh. No, because
I
it's...
kind of just eyeballed it in these last heavy rains, and it comes all the way down to my corner and dissipates into the storm sewer, so I haven't seen anything. I'm not an engineer, but haven't seen
Yeah,
any
no, I'm
problems with it.
just asking.
Can you retrofix that in various places to have that happen again? Or you know, in addition?
I'm sorry, retrofit.
Cut that where the tar has been built up, cut it down so that it can drain as it was earlier.
Yeah, kind of like, you mean like mill out.
What you just talked about
You know,
doing.
mill out some of that area, yeah.
That would be a way to solve some of those issues.
Yeah, it's just that this, you know, the driveway's so flat here too, that...
I didn't express that very well, but I think you know what
No,
I
I
mean.
understand what you're saying, yeah.
That's why I don't talk too often. I don't express it very well.
you did fine.
Any further discussion?
Intakes on right.
Need a motion for this
Come
one?
down
do we?
this way.
Yeah.
Some of,
Second.
Will this be done this fall, John?
Well, we were hoping to, but it's just, we tried getting prices, but it was too expensive, just because everybody's so busy. So what our intention would be is maybe bid it out like in January, when everybody's looking for next year's work, and then do it next spring.
Okay.
Main thing is having a plan, have an executable plan that will help to ease some of the minds of the property owners and that we are doing something. And at a good price.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Right.
I'm just hoping your lot lines aren't exactly right, because somebody's got a lot line going right through the roof of their garage or small house or something there.
Actually, those are just from, you know, the Beacon site, the county
Okay.
site. And yeah, those lot lines are always off. They're just a kind of a graphic display.
Just saying they better be.
There's a few properties in town that we know are split down the property line, but
All right, next is Resolution 155-18, which is approving the temporary construction easement next door at 1801 Rolfing then. Just part of the same,
It's the same project, yes.
Some of,
second.
further questions?
what's that cost going to be, John? To do this?
Estimate at least.
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Ballpark?
I don't have a ballpark right now. Sorry.
Sorry, I should have asked about that, I guess, on the first one. Maybe we shouldn't be approving of it if we don't know what it's going to cost.
We're just approving the easement now. The project will come
That's
later.
true, yes. Uh-huh.
That's true. Good point.
Okay, clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Resolution 155-18 is approved. Next is consideration Resolution 156-18, approving supporting Buy America requirements. Discussion on this one.
Yeah, and this is in regard to the Charlie Western Trail Bridge Replacement Project, and more specifically, our federal rec trail grant that we've applied for. Part of one of the provisions within that grant funding source is that we pass a resolution that says that we will utilize the Buy American provision underneath the Federal Highway Administration. Basically means that we buy domestic or U.S. origin steel or iron from certified suppliers. So this is part of our, an added part of our grant application for the federal rec trail grant.
Any questions for Steve?
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
As soon as I get my pen running here. Malero.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Resolution 15618 passes. Any miscellaneous correspondence tonight?
None, Your Honor.
Brad, attorney's report of anything?
No, Your Honor.
City clerk's report.
We will have our next planning session on September 24th at 6 o'clock, and we will also have to do a quick special meeting to approve the street finance report, so it won't take long.
Steve, are you going to be out of town at that meeting?
Yes, I will.
And I will be also, so.
Take all the
we'll
time
have
you
to
need.
let
Randy.
Jerry take control, I guess,
Oh,
huh?
gosh.
Scary thought, I know, but
We'll get even with you guys somehow,
Yep.
some way.
city administrator's report.
Yeah, just want to update that we're continuing to have meetings with the school on potential uses for 500 North Grand Building, so those talks continue. I think we're moving along well with that, and so at some point here we'll probably have a council meeting to discuss some of those things, depending on how that develops. So, but please know that work is ongoing. Also having additional discussions on our water resource recovery facility as we work out property acquisition and that whole project. And so based on what we've been working on with that, we'll probably be having a discussion at our next council meeting with that, as well as we look to purchase property there. So probably another closed session as we continue that process. So look for that on, because it would be October 1st. Comprehensive plan, tonight the Planning and Zoning Commission set October 22nd as the night for the public hearing for the comprehensive plan, which thanks to all the input that we've received from those that have worked on the plan. I've got Myrtle working away doing revisions and additions, so we'll have that to review on that night of the 22nd. Once the Planning and Zoning completes their process, they'll make a recommendation ultimately to the council for you guys to approve the comprehensive plan. But the goal line is in sight there. And last thing I guess I just want to mention is, yes, I have the ICMA National Conference coming up here at the end of this week. So leaving Friday, conference activities start Saturday and Sunday. We'll be returning Wednesday, so I'll be out of town for a few days. That'll be in Baltimore this year. And last thing I guess I just want to mention is we'll talk about the crosswalk a little bit. That we got 2 bids back on the crosswalk for the theater. They came a little high. I think, what were they? 18 and 20, 18,000 and 20,000. So again, it's that time of year to be bidding things out. So we will look to bid that out this winter and get a better bid price hopefully this spring when projects are getting lined up. This summer, as you know, we're behind on many of our other construction projects just due to weather, and so trying to get this done in that same time frame, we probably weren't too hopeful that we'd get too many good bids, and that seemed to be the case. So we'll be rebidding those out this winter, this spring, and so we'll look for that at that point. Other than that, that is all I have.
I just want to comment, we talked about the Hildreth Street project the other day, and some of those barricades and stuff towards the south end of that are gone, and it looks a whole lot better. It looks like somebody actually is paying attention to that deal. So
Very much so, I believe.
Yeah.
Did we check the bridge too? Was there a sign missing on the
The old
where
hiking.
the bridge was
right.
missing?
Yeah,
Has that
it's-
sign been replaced,
Yeah,
or
it has been
barricade been
replaced, yeah.
replaced?
Mhm.
And Steve, what time was the public hearing for the comprehensive plan?
5 PM.
That'll be here.
I'll be here in the council chambers. We'll publish notice for that, not more than 20 days prior, not less than 7 days, 7 to 20 range there. So yeah, 5 o'clock on the 22nd.
Very good. Anybody have any board or commission or committee reports?
Just a brief one on the landfill. They're having the same problems John's having. They're about halfway through, they're laying down a contract to dig in the third cell. And with the rain we've had the last 2 weeks, when you dig a deep hole in the dirt, why it fills up with water. But this week they started to make progress again. This last week they started to make progress again. That is supposed to be completed by October 5th. It's going to be late, but hopefully, depending on the winter, they should be done by the first part of December. They don't plan on using that cell until this spring, so that's not a major problem.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Any other reports? Not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
What if someone was opposed? They didn't get a chance to vote. Who would be opposed?
You never know.
I thought it was unanimous.
It's good ears.
I thought I heard all ayes.
Did Trudy say 51?
She did.
You didn't even listen.